Thank you for listening to the Cosmetics Business Podcast. For early access to episodes, exclusive beauty news stories, analysis, trend reports, and award-winning magazines, subscribe to cosmeticsbusiness.com. That's cosmeticsbusiness.com.
Hello and welcome to the Cosmetics Business Podcast, a monthly roundup of the biggest stories, trends and talking points in beauty. Coming to you from our London studio, my name is Sarah Parsons and I'm sitting here with fellow cosmetics business journalists
Julia Wray, Amanda Pauley
and Alessandro Carrara.
And in today's episode, we're going beyond the headlines to take on the biggest stories of the past month, from the downfall and future of the Body Shop, to the beauty brands putting the fun back in packaging, to headline act Beyoncé entering the hair care game. And stay to the end where we reveal our favourite new products launches this month. Alessandro, do you want to start on story number one?
All right, as I'm sure you've all heard, the Body Shop is in a really difficult situation at the moment. It has collapsed into administration. There have been store closure announcements. There's just a lot going on with this story. It's a very sad situation. It's been this high street stalwart for so long. It's really sad for me. It was one of my favourite beauty retailers. And what we know so far is that on the 13th of February, it collapsed into administration officially. And at the time, restructuring firm FRP Advisory was appointed as an administrator. Just to confirm, the administration affects the UK branch of the Body Shop. And while all of this was going on, FRP Advisory would go on to announce that over more or less half of its portfolio would shutter. They were fairly confident that would be the number. They did go on to eventually confirm that 116 stores will remain open. Roughly, that's around 75 stores that will close now as a result of this administration process. And this was on top of the 7 store closures which are originally announced earlier by FRP, including its London flagship on Oxford Street. So I guess really to open it up to you guys, what are your thoughts on the whole situation with the Body Shop?
I think there's so much noise around the Body Shop because it drives clicks and social media engagement and heated debate. Because it's not a discussion about facts, what went wrong, the black and white. It's a discussion about values. Particularly in the UK, the Body Shop almost represented the best of British. Quirky founder, Anita Roddick, a bit punkish, a bit rebellious. The Body Shop was a pioneer globally. And I think that's why it's hit home for a lot of people and why we're discussing about it so much. And so whilst I can imagine the people, I can only imagine that the employees must be hurting and so angry right now about Aurelius. But I hope they take pride in the fact that why it's getting so much publicity is because people care so much. And so the fact that they worked for a company that people truly believed in and that they want to succeed, I think that's why it's getting a lot of publicity. I think that it's almost a question about values as well, about Generation Z, because it's targeted Gen Z a lot. And as we all know, that USP of being sustainable doesn't sell anymore. You can't just be sustainable. You have to be more than that. And the fact that the Body Shop has repeatedly targeted Gen Z, focusing on the sustainability aspect, does not sell. Because if you look at it, there's this myth around Gen Z that they are the most sustainable generation that's ever existed, that they all wear vintage, that they all only use shampoo bars. But that's not true, because if you look at actually the most popular, particularly beauty brands with Gen Z, they're brands like CeraVe, Glossier, The Ordinary, and this is according to research by Gen Z media company Kyra. And these brands they're affordable, they're approachable, they're aspirational, or they've pioneered the way in terms of social media marketing. Their USP is not sustainability. And so what's fascinating, and I really recommend to anyone to read this research about Gen Z shopping values, is that millennials are more likely to be sustainable than Gen Z. 52% of millennials say that they would buy less of a brand and have negative feelings if a brand was found to be greenwashing versus 45% of Gen Z. And apparently because of this cost of living crisis, and The Body Shop, whilst is not the most expensive of brands, is not the cheapest either. And apparently 96% of Gen Z millennials report that the cost of living crisis is stopping them from making eco-friendly choices. And then on top of that, Gen Z purchase sustainably because of how it makes them look, because of how it makes them, it looks better if you purchase eco-friendly, or it's if you're feeling peer pressured by your colleagues or by your friends,
So it's performative rather than ethical.
Exactly. And I don't think The Body Shop has tapped into that aspirational factor.
I get that. I think a lot of my personal love for The Body Shop is rooted in nostalgia because it is a brand, as you mentioned, it's targeting Gen Z, but it has always targeted that youth market, that teen market.
Yeah.
I'd say originally because that's where the activists were. You mentioned Anita Roddick there. That was her core market, was people who thought like her and wanted products like the one she wanted for herself and which she made for herself and for similar people. Yeah, I think there's just so many more options now. I think that's the issue. The sustainability aspect has to not be the USP. It's a great thing. This is a thing. Everybody should be sustainable now. So saying you're sustainable, you're just like everybody else. Yeah. Unless you really have something that is much more punchy. And here I'm going to bring in Lush. I love Lush. Everyone knows I love Lush. They are an example of a company now which it's more than an ethical company. It's a campaigning company. And they're not afraid to rock the boat and to annoy people and to have really, some really negative headlines in. I'm going to mention some more of the right-wing tabloid newspapers. They're not afraid of doing that because if it is in pursuit of something that they truly believe in and they feel they should be, drawing attention to. And I kind of feel like the Body Shop probably for at least the last 15 years it's not really campaigned with teeth in the same way that it did in its infancy and in the same way that Lush continued to do for the past couple of decades. So for the people that care about those aspects, they have other brands that are doing that better than the Body Shop. And then for the youth market, the market that the Body Shop really always catered to, and I loved it. I remember going to my friend's 11th birthday party and it was at the Body Shop party and we all went there and we went to Burger King and we all bought lip balm and bath pearls and all these great things which used to be in the 90s most little small town UK girls' first introduction to makeup along with some lovely things from Superdrug and number 17 from Boots as well. So it was part of that roster of first products that you'd get when you were younger. Nowadays, they've got so many options. We were talking in the previous podcast about the Sephora Kids phenomenon. They want their drunk elephants, whether they should do or not. They want their, they want their CeraVes. They're just not that interested in the Body Shop.
I think also it's a part of the retail landscape as well, because the Body Shop's retail experience when you go in stores is undefined. It's not characteristic. It doesn't stand out. Lush has a very, very, very unique retail experience.
You're
whether
in a
you
Lush.
like it or not, you smell a Lush before you see a Lush. You go in, you get greeted by someone called Meadow or Flower. You don't know if that's their real name, but I love the experience. And it's like, it's the whole part. You're touching everything. You're learning, it's that experience. And yes, they're like the bath bomb kings, but they have so many other great products. So when you go into a Lush, it's very, very memorable. Also, they do have those founders still, people in the company who are activists, those kind of key people who are championing the brand values as well as innovation. Whereas unfortunately, the Body Shop doesn't have somebody at the moment who is that key icon of the brand.
Yeah.
Then you've got, the body market's saturated, but you've got other brands like Sol de Janeiro, which is just absolutely thriving. Everyone knows that body cream. You can smell it. It's very distinctive. They do amazing stuff on social. So there's that aspect. But also I think it's this classic thing of a heritage brand that's rested on its laurels a bit in terms of its original values.
Playing it safe.
Yes, but not innovating, because they could still be that sustainable brand, but be first to market with new packaging. That's
They've only just launched
innovative.
shampoos at the end of last year. Shampoo bars, sorry.
Yes.
Solid shampoo bars, they've only just launched at the end of
They were
last year.
beaten by Procter & Gamble brands.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also a fully vegan range.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they could have been pioneers and led this and then brought those aspects into the store to make it really experiential so that people want to go there. But this isn't me sort of digging at the Body Shop, because I think they actually have great hero products, but there's too much competition. The retail market and the landscape has changed, and we're also in a recession. So you're battling a lot more for people's money. And it's just the thing of I just don't think they've innovated enough in the way that the industry is innovating overall. But not that they can't turn it around.
Well, that's a really, really good point, because I think, so I feel like we as the media, not to self-flagellate, but I feel that we are maybe a little bit to blame about this kind of public wailing and chest beating about the demise of the Body Shop, when actually it's in no way a demise. Going into administration is not the beginning of the end by any stretch of the imagination. And I think because we use words like collapsing into administration, because it's exciting and it gets eyes on page. And I do feel like maybe there's a general public perception that this is something that's terrible. Obviously, it's not good, but it's a way of really reassessing and taking the time to streamline, to come back smaller, but maybe stronger.
Yeah. Its portfolio is far too big. Its retail footprint is far too big. It needs smaller footprint, perhaps larger stores, more impactful stores, as you were saying, Amanda, because like the retail experience just isn't there. It called its new format an activist hub. What was activist about it? It had some refills of shampoos and conditioners, but Asda was doing that. And it sold some books, but it could have been a real moment of true activism. It could have been a point of where they created an event space and had leading thinkers debate about sustainability, sharing of like-minded ideals, like experimenting with new product formats. And, you know, if you're in that location, you'll be the first one to try it. I think that it's all very wishy-washy, the Body Shop. It's all very playing it safe. And I think it's because it's been owned by larger conglomerates, and larger conglomerates because of shareholders. Even if you're a B Corp like Natura, it cannot handle an activist brand. If you're an activist, you're turbulent, you rock the boat, you say things that shock. And to be honest with you, the Body Shop has not done that in a very long time.
No.
And I don't think they're strong enough to be online only. Not that they are doing that, but I think they need to go back to the retail, go back to the in-person experience to actually get feet in the door, drive the sales up, because the online marketplace is a whole different ball game. And I just think retail's where they started, and that's what they need to go back to. Yeah. But it does need to be experiential. Like, you know, their stores are pretty
old-fashioned.
There's not enough going on. So,
you know, we speak about Lush a lot, and I almost look at Lush as almost the alternative timeline of what the Body Shop could have been, because there is that activism, as you said, Julia, but there's that energy and fun. Look at all the collaborations they do, like the Saltburn Bath Bomb, all the anime collaborations they've been doing. These are fun. These get people into the doors. These get people talking, sharing content on social media. I've got bath bombs from some of these collections, which I don't want to use because they feel special to me. That offering is missing. And I do feel like perhaps a misstep was removing the iconic coloured body butter packaging colours, where you'd be like, okay, you know you're getting a coconut butter, or you know you're getting an argan oil, because it has a very distinctive colour. So I think a refresh would be good potentially, and inject some fun and some energy.
Yeah, I think we really need to know what the Body Shop stands for. And yes, they have amazing fair trade relationships, and they really pioneered that. But it doesn't go far enough. Like, we talk about Lush a lot, but there are other great examples to talk about what really standing for something. Like, The Ordinary really stands against science washing and misinformation within the science beauty community. There is so much greenwashing happening within the beauty industry. Why doesn't the Body Shop take a step against that? Why don't they call out other brands against that? Why don't they do key education content around that? Instead, last year they took part with Black Friday, the most consumerist, arguably pollutant holiday of the year. It's not something you'd expect from a sustainable beauty brand.
You're talking about a figurehead. Do you think someone should come in and maybe take the reins? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs a personality.
Yeah.
A leader.
It does. And as we've seen in this industry, obviously, Anita Roddick was a talisman, but you can have people coming into a business and becoming that talisman. Look at Sui Nabi and Kosi. You can absolutely have a situation where you have somebody come in, take the reins, and almost become part of the DNA of that brand. And that can be really beneficial.
Yeah. Or you can look at Coco Chanel, like who's a deceased founder, but Chanel has thrived, still homage her legacy, and because she was another pioneering female founder, but not just use her image constantly on social media to act as a voice. They're able to get her essence without relying solely on her face.
Sorry, absolutely. I was going to say, I feel like every time a new face of Chanel has come out for a fragrance, they talk about this particular person embodying the spirit of Coco Chanel. So they're still leveraging on that even now.
Last year, Emma Watson, the actress, she did one of those Vogue videos, like What's in My Handbag. And I found out she's a fan of like the Body Shop's Cheek and Lip Tint. I thought that was amazing. I mean, apparently that sold out afterwards, and I immediately, when I got that PR package afterwards, I was like, yay. But that's the kind, I know she's tied with Prada, but that's the kind of person that they need.
And you think they'd have jumped on that and maybe made something of it.
I'm sort of like going back on myself a bit, but I was sort of giving flack to this whole, you've been brought on as a co-founder kind of thing in the last podcast episode. But actually, if someone were brought on, they could really shake things up. In fact, I was sort of scrolling through LinkedIn. Some people are sort of putting their offers out there. I've seen a few posts saying like, hire me, this is what I will do. This is how we can re-energize the business, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, whether they do that, I don't know.
And that's because there is that love for the Body Shop there. And all of this passion and frustration just does come from a place of love. No one's enjoying having this discussion and seeing a brand, and therefore employees struggle, but they want it to succeed at the end of the day.
100%. And I'd just like to bring up some comments from the Body Shop's former CEO, David Boynton, who was very vocal about the Body Shop not being dead. Just to read out some of what he said that the Body Shop is not in administration because it's failing, and it will live on in the future. He says the Body Shop has always been highly profitable in the UK and that the vast majority of its stores are money-making. And what's really interesting is that his comments came about a week before reports came out that the administrators for the Body Shop are investigating claims that millions of pounds were taken out of the business before it collapsed into administration. So FRP Advisory is looking into claims of unaccounted for funds that predate the cosmetics retailer's sale to Aurelius Group last year. And the investigation is in its early stages. And I do think that this sort of sheds some new light on the situation. And I guess, what are your thoughts about, the funds?
Well, going back to David Boynton's comments there, he's absolutely correct. I think probably we should stress that the Body Shop has gone into administration in the UK. It's also gone into administration in Germany, Belgium, and Denmark as well. And I mean, it's great news, I guess, that the UK business, the UK branch of the Body Shop, is still thriving. Again, I think it circles back to what we were saying about administration being, although it's brutal, although obviously lots of people lose their jobs, and it's a human aspect, and that's, really upsetting. From a purely functional point of view, essentially you can rescue a company by letting it trade at this significantly reduced scale with fewer premises, redundancies, but it will continue. It will continue as a smaller, more functional nugget of the beast that it previously was, which I think is what David is saying in this case. It's just a case of really reassessing and streamlining from a fairly bare bones point of view.
I think also, if I remember correctly, David said, highlighted how the Body Shop did struggle, or has always struggled with Germany.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so whereas the Body Shop in the UK was considered like the jewel in the portfolio, that's where it came as a shock to people. It was the UK and Canada as well, were the two start countries.
Was there any particular reason why it didn't do well in Germany that was mentioned, or no? I mean, I do wonder, maybe it's something, I think it's a very British brand, isn't it? It's very talismanic to Britain.
Yeah.
It was Brighton, right? And I think people think of the Body Shop in this country with a certain nostalgia and fondness that maybe you're not going to get in Germany or another European company.
Possibly.
Possibly.
But also they could look at, I don't know, they probably already do, but looking more at working with influencers. And there's a whole generation of sustainable influencers, and having, those content creator crews or communities that they like to talk about, and use them a lot, really.
I also think they could maybe lean in more into, we mentioned obviously their fair trade links. There are some fantastic places in the world these are coming from, wonderful cooperatives, loads of stories there. They could really be on the ground creating content, sharing this content, which is really, it's giving people a really great insight into what goes into their products as well. And I feel like maybe they're not leveraging that enough.
No, there's also like the metaverse as well. They could use that platform to really showcase stories and get people to visually see the worlds of their supply chain and their farmers and things like that. Perhaps they can't visit them in person, but through the metaverse, you can do that storytelling.
Exactly.
Also, you could do, on the flip side, you can do the shock factor of showing, what the beauty industry will look like as a result of climate change, and how climate change will impact different ingredients and things like that, to develop that story.
You're right that they might be missing a trick there. I do remember interviewing someone from the Body Shop. The way they described the whole supply chain process and issues, it was to do with the production of coconut oil and where they sourced it from, and the fact that some of the places where they sourced it from were being afflicted by these beetles that would eat the coconuts and reduce the size of them, and the struggles that the farmers would have with a reduced crop yield, but also then what does the Body Shop do afterwards? I feel like you guys sort of like hit the nail on the head there, because I felt so invested hearing that. And actually, I'm sure a lot of people would be really interested to hear that, because some of this stuff, who knew that beetles could cause such devastation to crops?
Well, especially if, for example, the numbers of beetles were being influenced by climate change, for example, and that's, a knock-on negative effect. So yeah. And
going back to the former CEO, David, he said within this very long LinkedIn post, and the very end, he finished it saying how they forgot to tell their own story, the Body Shop. And that's the crux of it at the end of the day. They might have done these amazing things, albeit perhaps in some cases a little bit too late, in the sense that they've just gone vegan, for example, but they have done these amazing things. They just don't shout about them in the same way as that they need to get people's attention in an incredibly crowded marketplace. So from storytelling at the Body Shop to storytelling through packaging, Amanda, do you want to go with your story?
Yes. So lots of Gen Z beauty brands are taking the feel-good factor of their products to another level with a new wave of packaging that delivers more memorable and mindful experiences. So it's much more focusing on the play and the interactive aspect of a product, which either creates a fun action with packaging that also provides a benefit to the user, or a memorable, very photo-ready moment which can be shared online. And I'm going to mention two brands in particular about this, although there are more we can talk about. The first one's going to be Hailey Bieber's Rode. The brand recently released a phone case for iPhone 14 or 15 Pro and Pro Max. And why it just went viral is because you can actually clip one of the brand's lip tints into the back, so your phone can carry your lip gloss around with you. Obviously, Bieber released a selfie of herself with it, a very classic bathroom mirror selfie. The Instagram post revealing the case received 245,000 likes, while a video about it on TikTok amassed 2.8 million views. To be honest, it is an innovation. Like, I haven't seen another brand do it. The case is made out of silicone. It's only available in grey at the moment, and you can put one of her free lip tints in it. I like the tagline. It's text treat tint. Clever. But what's even more clever is that the case is £35 to buy on its own, and you can add an optional lip tint for £16. But obviously, everyone's going to buy the lip tint because it's the status of showing the lip tint on your phone case. So the brand is making £51 from each sale. It's making double the amount, really, it would just selling the lip tints on their own. And it has sold out. I mean, the website has got a waiting list now saying that it's roughly going to be April when people can get it again. And obviously social media is awash with people doing that classic bathroom selfie, showing it. It's genius. And even if it's just a small fad that fades out, she still created a very memorable moment. She's obviously making good sales out of it. And it is a status thing. It's that thing of being seen with it. But she could be clever and actually do seasonal stuff with it. Like I say, it's only available in one colour at the moment. My only negative about it is a bit chunky.
Can you fit it in your pocket?
Yeah, it's just chunky. It's chunky on one side. And actually, my other much bigger gripe about it is that you can only fit her product in it because of the way it's shaped at the bottom, because her lip tints are quite a distinctive packaging. So if she had created it and universally you could put anything in it, that'd be great. But I haven't actually seen anyone try and put something else in it, but I think you would struggle.
I mean, that fits into what you were saying just then about the fact that they're selling them basically together, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it
clever.
makes sense. It's a fantastic way to make money.
It's a lifestyle product. It's taking the selfie to another level, tapping into the bathroom selfie, but also I actually think it's quite a genius idea. When you don't have your bag with you, you can have a lip tint on with you. You're always going to have your phone with you. Who leaves the house without their phone?
Yeah.
I'm going to put my conspiratorial hat on for just a moment, because Hailey Bieber must know how popular the brand is, right? So she's made a certain amount and it's gone out of stock so quickly. Now there's a waiting list, which is going to drive even more hype, get people waiting, purchasing when it comes out next. It's really smart and probably a purposeful decision to maybe make less, maybe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's this exclusivity of it, the status symbol of it. You know, it's a really, really clever move. And the brand doesn't actually have anything like this. But it's kind of genius.
Well, what I love about the Rode phone case is the fact that it really neatly straddles packaging and merch. It works with the packaging, but it is merch. And we are seeing these kind of buzz brands. Often they're associated with celebrities. So you've got Pleasing. You know, you've got these brands that are bringing out things like, I guess, tote bags, sweaters, caps, etc. I feel like this is a really fantastic kind of hybrid between packaging and those kind of products. And yeah, I mean, personally, I'd get one.
Yeah, it's useful, and everybody needs a phone case. Because like you say, I mean, tote bags are great, but we've all got about a gazillion of them in our cupboards. Whereas this does actually kind of fill a need. And it's in that classic brand colour of hers, that very slate grey that you associate with her. But, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But yes, apparently, according to when we film this, it's coming back in April and you can sign up for a wait list.
You like all the videos of people just sellotaping random beauty products to the back of their phones.
Yes, again, but that's what I mean. It's creating memorable moments because people are having fun with it. Taking the piss of it, you know, sticking a pen to the back of their phone and going, I came up with the idea
marketing.
First. Yeah. But it's all roads lead back to her.
We saw you did that.
But there's another one I want to mention, which is, again, totally ties into this kind of putting the fun and the play back into packaging, but in a very different way. And this is Gen Z cosmetics brand Lottie London. And they launched a Twisted Heart Love Glaze, which is a dual lip tint and gloss and a fidget spinner in one. So it's in the shape of a heart. The lip gloss is on one end of the tip of the heart, the lip tint's on the other. You can twist it between being straight and into a heart shape. And it's just clever because it's a fusion of playful aesthetics with functionality, but also it's tapping into that kind of 90s and Y2K nostalgia trend by utilising a really iconic toy from that era. And the fidget toy is actually in the midst of a comeback at the moment. It's got more than 26.1 billion views on TikTok as users share the positive impact the product is having on their daily lives. And Lottie London's first video that they released about it amassed more than 452,000 views. It is now the best-selling item online and in the US with their retail partners Walmart and CVS. And, you know, they sent me one. I was playing with it for hours. It's crazy. Eventually I gave it to my niece because she desperately wanted it. But it's clever because it's just mixing the two. It just gives another facet, another level to your product. It makes it more memorable. You know, I was playing with it when I was on the train, just like you just not even using the product, just actually like playing with it as a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
It's
two things in
I'm
one.
imagining if a brand launches a Rubik's Cube, a beauty product.
I'd go mad.
Could you imagine with eyeshadows? Guys, you've heard it here, do it.
Or like a beauty Tamagotchi hybrid. I'd love
Is it
that.
that you can only get to the product itself if you solve the Rubik's Cube?
Yeah, like
And it's hidden in the middle.
Or if you keep the Tamagotchi alive, I mean, I would be barefaced forever. Those poor little guys died on me all the time.
But I just love this kind of fusion of nostalgia with functionality. And it's in a cute heart shape. It's very pretty. It's very well made. And the brand has said that based on the kind of reception of this, they're looking into what they can do with other categories in their portfolio and where they could maybe introduce other things. So potentially we might see more innovation from them in this arena. But I've just never seen a beauty product that is also a fidget spinner.
It's new to me too, and I've worked in this industry for quite a while. What I really love about this is, I mean, other than the novelty aspect, and I'm going to fangirl over Lottie here a little bit because I feel like they do a great job with this whole kind of dopamine packaging, dopamine dressing, just fun, bright, colourful, see-through sometimes. The Lottie team that deals with packaging, hats off to you guys because they do it right every single time. And I feel what this really taps into as well, the fidget spinner fantastically, is this kind of tactility, this almost ASMR aspect. So we're seeing a lot of things, for example, that have maybe a nice touchy feeling. They sit in the palm of your hand. They've got a nice kind of soft touch feel. This is that taken to the next level. You are actively, you're not just enjoying touching it, they are inviting you to play with it, to touch it and have that elevated experience with them through the way they've designed this. It's great. I love it.
And it perfectly leads back to their brand values as well, which is the most genius part of it, because they do so many CSR campaigns about mental health for Gen Z. And even though there's not definitive research on the mental health aspects of using a fidget spinner, there's lots of research papers out there which suggest that it can help improve concentration.
Isn't it supposed to be good for like repetitive behaviours and stuff to take your mind off that?
So, I think it just goes back, it aligns with who they are and actually what they do as well. So it's not just a novelty, it's not just a gimmick. It is part of like what they actually do. So yeah, I am excited to see what else they will bring. Obviously, there are other brands in the market who do different things. Like there's Bubble, who they went viral with their Slam Dunk moisturizer because when you press it down, it comes out in the shape of a flower, which obviously is very fun, very memorable, very Instagrammable, TikTokable. But I really want to see a bit more of this kind of gamification, interactive playfulness, and yes, straddling different arenas, because Rhode is straddling lifestyle and beauty. Lottie London is straddling game and beauty. So I can't wait to see what else packaging is going to bring up, really.
But they both have things in common because you carry your phone all the time and fidget spinner users carry the fidget spinner all of the time as well. So whilst they're different, there's still things you have in your handbag or in your pocket.
Yeah, and you'd use it more than you would just a lip gloss.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting that you mentioned gamification there, because I think so often in this industry, when we talk about gamification, we think about things like the metaverse, we think about digital, but games have existed for a really long time. Sarah mentioned a Rubik's Cube. You have the fidget spinners. These are things which they are physical products. They are very tactile. And I think the industry is missing a trick if it doesn't leverage on some of those a bit more, maybe.
Way more interesting than anything I've seen from beauty out of the metaverse. So.
Yeah, it's a different kind of play, more adult play. But Eimear French's, who has a lipstick in the shape of male genitalia. And whilst you can't play with it in the same way that... Sorry. In the same way.
We're going down a dark
There's no way. I'm going to have to keep going. You can't play with it in the same way as the fidget spinner, but it's very photogenic. And they've put it in Sex Education by Netflix. And it still taps into that idea of play. Whilst it's very high fashion in terms of the imagery, go look it up. It's very high fashion. It's actually very tasteful, considering. Something about it, I can't help but think of like hen parties.
And straws?
Novelty
straws.
Yeah, and that idea of
pasta.
play. And that that titillation, just high fashion titillation.
It's an element of fun, isn't it? It's another twist on. And you're absolutely right. They're actually more kind of art objects than, than something you find in Ann Summers and take to your hen. But yes, there's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge there. And I think, again, it's about bringing those elements of fun into beauty where you can. We can be quite a serious industry, and rightfully so, with big business. But I think it's sometimes nice to do things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's an element about it that you can relate to Lottie London in the sense of that Eimear French is very much for the female gaze. even though it's a male genitalia, it's not done for men, especially when you look at the campaign imagery. And that's something that makeup is heavily criticised about, that, it's for other people. But actually all of these launches, Lottie London and Eimear French, is actually for the user and for their own perception of themselves, or perhaps improve their mental health, but rather than it being for someone else.
It's cool. Let's see more of it this year.
So the headline act of this episode is Beyoncé launching into hair care.
Yes, and Beyoncé is in the studio with us now. Sorry, guys. We do not have Beyoncé on here. You have to make do with us. So yes, Beyoncé, Grammy dominating. She's the most successful Black touring artist ever of all time. She has added a new string to her bow this year, in the form of, as Sarah mentioned, a haircare brand called Sacred. Not that she needed another string to her bow. She's touring. I think she's #1 in the charts. She's doing incredibly well. But anyway, Beyoncé Knowles Carter, to give her full name, has launched this brand that she's essentially been teasing online since probably midway through last year. So it's not a shock. It's not like this dropped and everyone went, oh my goodness. But we finally get to see exactly what she's been working on this whole time. And it looks good. So Sacred, it's an 8-piece range. It's been developed for the needs of textured hair, but it is suitable for all hair types. Everything is priced from £24 with the hydrating shampoo as an entry point. And it's got some interesting ingredients in its different products as well. Most notably, fermented rice, which is part of its hero multi-step fermented rice and rose protein ritual. Bit of a mouthful, that. But then you also have a treatment mask, which contains bioactive keratin ferment. This brings together keratin, which is from natural wool proteins, lactobacillus ferment, and honey. And it claims to replace depleted proteins in hair. So that's from the ingredients side. From the packaging side, which is obviously it's quite important, as we've just been talking about. It's much like Hailey Bieber's phone case, comes in this kind of pale grey, sculptural-looking packaging. It reminds me a little bit of Skin from Kim Kardashian. And although I personally love the look of this packaging, it appeals to me, and I imagine it feels great in your hand as well. I can't see any evidence of it online being refillable, which for me is a massive problem if you have a brand which is leaning into these big sculptural heavy packs. So if I have this wrong, if anyone from Sacred is listening and it is refillable, apologies, but I can't see anything sold online at the moment. And in the press materials, there wasn't really any mention of the packaging. So some of Beyonce's fans have weighed in. They've been commenting on Instagram that Beyoncé herself hasn't really done that much visibly in the way of things like tutorials, etc., to promote Sacred, to show people how to use, for example, the ritual product, which is several steps, a bit more complicated. So fans have compared her unfavourably to Rihanna, who's the founder of Fenty Beauty. And, you know, whether you like it or not, she's kind of become the benchmark for any singer or celebrity, any general celebrity turned beauty business founder, because she's been so successful. And Rihanna has recently starred in this whole film noir pastiche to promote her new Luxe Balm. And so she's still very much front and centre of the brand. But is all of this fair? Do we really need to be comparing Beyoncé and every other celeb founder to Rihanna? Do we need everyone to hit that benchmark when it comes to how engaged they are with promoting their brands?
It does feel a tiny bit hands off. What I thought was really interesting when Beyoncé originally teased the hair care line was the images of her in the salon. And if I'm not mistaken, of her as a child in the salon getting her hair done. Where's that?
Yes. I feel like when it comes to founders and celebrity founders in particular, there is a level of expectancy that consumers have. They want authentic. They're purchasing their brand to almost purchase an element to get even closer to their favorite celebrity. Whereas Beyoncé she's a very private individual. She's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, but one of the most private individuals. And that might work as a singer, as a musician, but it does not work in beauty as a founder, because you need that tactility. You need that authenticity. You need that almost personal element. I was looking, funny enough, you mentioned Fenty, but when Fenty launched in 2017, Rihanna was doing makeup at people at the launch party. right? Whereas what I'm seeing with Beyoncé at some of the press events that they've done is that it was her mother who was giving people trims. Beyoncé wasn't even there. Yes, she was there at the launch party, but she wasn't there applying the product. Even in the footage that we see on Instagram of Beyoncé, she's not even applying the product on herself. It's as a salon person. Well, to be fair to Beyoncé, her mum did own a salon, and apparently there's a story of Beyoncé who used to sweep up hair on her mum's floor. And her mum is very linked to the beauty industry because of that. And also she used to be a makeup artist at Shiseido. So her mum is very heavily involved in the launch, but it's just that closeness. Beyoncé, she keeps people at arm's length. I don't think it works. You had Victoria Beckham, when she launched her makeup brand, she did a very similar thing, applying people. JVN, Jonathan Van Ness, when he launched his hair care line, he was applying hair products on me at the launch. So people just want to see the real Beyoncé. They want to know, because she's very famous for wearing wigs as well. People were saying she's wearing wigs only in this promotional shots. They want to see what her real hair looks like. Is it gorgeous, or is she just wearing amazingly lace-fronted wigs?
Yeah, so in a lot of the promotional material about Sacred, Beyoncé has not shied away from the fact that she has always worn her hair in myriad different ways. She's had it natural, she's had it pressed, she's had wigs, weaves, everything you can get going. She's coloured it. The whole idea behind the brand is that it is suitable for all hair types, and it will allow you to have a healthy scalp and healthy hair underneath your wig if you are a habitual wig wearer like Beyoncé. But I agree, I'd have really liked to have seen her natural hair thriving and healthy as part of the promotional material. Mm-hmm. Again, I agree with you. I think there's an authenticity there, obviously, with her background, with Tina's background. Apparently the products also have to be inspired by the way that Tina used to mix kind of these high-end products with homemade remedies. And I feel you can see little bits of that in, for example, the rice water ingredient that's been used for centuries as a DIY hair care product. So there are nice little touches there. But I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to if a celebrity wants their brand to be aspirational, but so aspiration requires an element of realism. And Beyoncé is so very famous, so very private, so very remote. She's almost superhuman. She's taken on this kind of goddess mantle. And I think it's very difficult for people to go, oh, I want to be like Beyoncé by buying this, because that's so far out of anyone's reach.
And they aren't cheap products either.
No.
And so there's an element of that as well. Like, can everyone afford her products? No.
Exactly. And there has been a lot of chat on Instagram, for example, saying, oh, we'd love to get these in Europe, in the UK, wherever, but then the shipping costs are absolutely astronomical, on top of it being a very high-end brand. So you automatically, for somebody as world famous as Beyoncé, you have a potential customer base there who can't really get their hands on the products.
And I also read that people were a bit disappointed because they thought that because Beyoncé is a black woman, her mother is a hairdresser who is a black woman, that the products would solely focus on black hair. And the fact that in the marketing material is all hair types, which obviously makes sense from a money perspective, because if you can cater to as many people as possible, the more money you're likely to make. But I think that has still left people feeling a bit alienated and disappointed with Beyoncé.
Yeah. So the Sacred products have been formulated, as you say, principally with textured hair types in mind, but they're said to be suitable and they are being marketed and promoted to all hair types. You compare that to maybe Pattern, for example, which is very much aimed at people with textured hair. That's Tracee Ellis Ross's brand, another celebrity hair care brand, and a really good one at that. But yeah, there's that aspect too. And I think you've also maybe hit on the reason why she didn't go down the high-end wig route, because if you're looking at the community of people that wear wigs, it's a much smaller group than probably what she's aiming for. And again, you kind of look at it and go, does Beyoncé really need the money? Would it have been better for her to have created a product which is very much for a community of women that are underrepresented and that really look up to her maybe, than try and maybe get, what's the scattergun approach, get as many people as possible to buy a product?
Or would it have been better for her to invest in other hair care brands, perhaps owned by Black founders. Or what I would love to see is the revival of Madam C.J. Walker, which is this hair care brand that was founded at the turn of the century by, it's not her real name, but Madam C.J. Walker. And she was the first person from her family to be born as a free person, so not as a slave. And she went on to become, well, that is widely known as to be America's first self-made millionaire. And that's an amazing story. And apparently the products were amazing. And she had a deeply connected community. So reaching back into America's past to bring the most topical of conversations to the forefront.
Yeah, there's so many other ways that maybe it could have been approached. I do really like the idea that it could have been Tina's baby, because that's her heritage. I know it's a part of Beyonce's heritage, but it was what Tina chose, and it was maybe her love.
Would that not sort of broach a lot of generations as well? You'd have older beauty shopper, and then you'd have the younger people who are interested in Beyonce as well.
Exactly.
And I think we're nitpicking though. I'd love to try this brand. I'd specifically love to try the ritual. I think that there isn't enough ritualism in hair care. I feel like that's something that's really nice to bring back into that. Something that's a bit DIY. You have a shaker product, which is sold separately. And it really makes you part of the process. I think it makes you feel very pampered. And I think that's a lovely addition and something that more brands could do.
This is Cosmetics Business Picks, the section of the podcast where we share our favourite products of the past month. In no particular order. Amanda, do you want to go first?
Yes, so I've picked Beauty Pie's collaboration with makeup artist Sam Chapman. This has recently come out. The beauty subscription service's 9-piece range with the renowned makeup artist is a curation of Chapman's must-have cosmetic items. My favourite are the metallic finish Sheen Machine eye paints, especially in copper, omni and silvery taupe Verona. A little goes a long way with these, I think, which is the key thing. And also the pigmentation in it is so strong, but it actually blends out into a really beautiful shimmer. It's so wearable. You can see it on a lot of skin types, and it's got really good staying power. But I think a lot of that is to do with Chapman, because she very much pushes very wearable daily makeup looks that kind of suit everyone in colours that are very complementary for a lot of skin tones. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping that maybe she might do a few more things with them and that this is just the start.
Julia?
I've, on the subject of peptide lip glosses, we're talking about Rhode earlier, I've chosen MUA Makeup Academy's Hydrojuice Peptide Lip Balm. As you may be able to hear at the moment, everybody in the CB team has this sort of sexy viral voice. And unfortunately, another side effect of being ill is lips that are incredibly painfully dry. So that explains in part why I've been glued to this product since it dropped into the office. I have the version called Heartfelt Hun. It comes in 6 shades, and Heartfelt Hun is like this pinky nude tone. And it's really wearable. It's nice. It adds a little bit of colour, but not too much. So if you go over the edges, which you'll want to do when you have dry lips, then you're not going to, look like you've overlined essentially. So all of these contain a 3 amino acid peptide and vitamin E for moisture. And the other reason that I'm applying this quite liberally and frequently is the smell. So each shade in this range has a different scent, and this one has a synthetic honey fragrance, which is difficult to describe, but it's like honey pimped with something flowery as well, and it is just delicious. I feel like I'm putting it on my lips, and I feel like I'm kind of kissing a beehive in the nicest possible sense. It's absolutely yummy, and I will continue to be using this.
My pick for this month is the Burberry Eyeshadow Quad, and it's really beautiful. It's in a slim pack, so nice and easy for travel. It's part of Burberry's big comeback into makeup. It's sheer but buildable. I tried it in the blush beige quad, so it's super flattering if you've got perhaps green and hazel eyes. I just really recommend it. It's a bit on the pricier side, about £48, but it's very typical for a premium fashion brand.
For Burberry, you pay that.
Exactly.
Right. So to round things off, you guys know this about me, but I guess the whole world is going to know this now. I really love mushrooms. I think they're really cool. I think they're really neat. And the product I want to talk about this month is Loewe's mushroom candle, which I just think is so cool. So It's a candle inspired by the smell of Agaricus bisporus, which is otherwise known as the humble portobello mushroom. The prominent scent notes are woods, but it's also been infused with patchouli, adding sort of more floral scent palette to the whole candle, which the latter of which comes out the more you burn the candle. So the longer you burn it, the more patchouli comes out. Love the fact it's got 4 wicks, which is as a serial tunneler of my candles. I appreciate sort of the considerations there, and it just builds off the mushroom craze from last year, which I was all for. And it's probably going to be a staple scent for when autumn rolls around again.
I can imagine it's got a lovely earthy smell to it.
Earthy, woody is exactly what they're going for.
That's all what we have time for today on the Cosmetics Business Podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And if you'd like to listen to more, make sure to subscribe, like, and follow. And we'll speak to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.